Hi, I'm Peggy Venable. I'm host of On Point TV, and today we're talking about a controversial new program in Texas education. I say new, it's been around for a few years, but it's called CSCOPE. It's been around, but most people haven't known that it was in our classrooms. Today we have the privilege of talking to a teacher who's been using CSCOPE, but is afraid to be identified as a CSCOPE critic. I'm going to ask her to explain to you what her concerns are about CSCOPE in the classroom.
Well, first of all, we have some of our most experienced teachers, and I see them tendering their resignation because they've gone to try to express their dismay with the academic shortcomings of the program. We have, of course, a lot of younger teachers coming up through the ranks, and one of the ways that schools that we incubate younger teachers is by having them use really good lessons and finding out what works and what doesn't work, and as they grow and improve professionally. Unfortunately, in the CSCOPE environment, there is no room for teachers to deviate because we're being evaluated on whether or not we use the lessons as we're told to do. So I've actually had younger teachers come into my classroom and shut the door and say, please, can I please see your lesson plan? Can I please see how you would teach this particular? My students aren't understanding it. They're not getting it with these CSCOPE lessons. And so there just isn't room for teachers to stand up and say, this is academically not working. It breaks my heart to see reading lessons being taught without reading novels, without the use of actual grade-leveled reading passages. It breaks my heart to see students that cry over doing long division because they didn't have enough time spent on learning multiplication facts. There are just huge gaps in CSCOPE, and our students are not being well prepared.
Well, it's clear you care a lot about students, and I guess it is pretty heartbreaking, pretty shocking to most of us to know that teachers are not comfortable speaking out and criticizing this CSCOPE lesson plan. Can you explain to us why teachers are so fearful of criticizing it, and what the repercussion might be if you were identified as critical of CSCOPE?
People have to understand that the whole purpose of the school districts purchasing CSCOPE is so that it can be used to manage teachers, so that everyone is on the same lesson, on the same day, using the same script. And teachers are evaluated on whether they're following along with that program. So there isn't room for the teacher to just say, well, this isn't working. My students need to slow down, or I need to reteach, or my students are doing really well, I can speed up. I'd like to really challenge my students and extend their learning. There just isn't any room for that. And that's where students are really being hurt.
Well, what can parents do to find out, first, of course, if their school district is using CSCOPE, and then what can they do, and who should they voice their concerns to? What would you recommend as a teacher?
The best thing for a parent to do, if you go to a teacher, you go to the superintendent, the teacher doesn't have any power to really do anything. But the best thing that you can do is to use the elected school board that is in place in your district and hold them accountable to answering really strong questions about the validity of CSCOPE. Ask them to show you the proof of where it was ever field tested, about whether, just ask hard questions and demand answers, because you have the right to have those answers as a parent.
All great points. Thank you so much for your willingness to talk about this, even anonymously. I would also encourage people to contact their legislator. This will certainly be an issue this legislative session. We will probably hear a lot more talk about this. You've been joining On Point. Thanks for listening.